Welcome to the Whistleblower. This is the program for the water polo community that focuses largely on refereeing, but also on plenty of other things of interest in our wonderful game. My name is Ian Trent, and joining me is today's panel of water polo legends. Firstly, Australian Water Polo's Director of Refereeing and the leading apologist for the brilliant Balmain Water Polo Club. It's Phil Bauer. Hi, Phil.
Hello, Ian. How are you?
Good. You're always in a good mood when the Roosters win, and they are winning. And then they get Sonny Bill Williams. What do you do? How do you do that?
Mate, just keep getting the best, you know. The sombrero works. Great system.
Phil's in Sydney, and he's reasonably safe and sound. It's raining here, though, cats and dogs. And hopefully as safe and sound in Melbourne is Australia's top referee, and he actually needs to be an apologist for the Collingwood Football Club after that thrashing by the Eagles in Perth. It's Danny Flav. Hi, Danny.
Hello, Ian. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction and bringing up the terrible loss by the Pies yesterday. Thank you.
They will be there in the end. Don't you worry about that. Also in Melbourne, in her little hub, a whistleblower rookie and another Magpie fan, but also a World Championship gold medal winning goalkeeper. I had the pleasure of coaching her, and indeed it was a pleasure. And also the Australian women's team manager, Lynn Morrison. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Minnie. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us tonight. Fantastic. Soon, another legend. Our special guest will be Australian women's team captain Rowie Webster, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let's talk about some communication. Audience questions. If you'd like to ask Phil, Danny, with refereeing about anything you like, also Rowie during our interview with her, please look at the bottom of your screen, the Q&A tab, press it, write your question. It'll come up and we will do our best to answer it. Also, if you think the show's good, you think it's bad, anything you like, any feedback, we welcome, whistleblowerpolo@gmail.com. And our Instagram account is whistleblowerpolo, hashtag who is TWB, the whistleblower. So we'd like to hear from you. It'd be great. Okay. Without further ado, it's game time now. When we look at game situations whereby we hope to clear up any misconceptions referees may have in dealing with them. And today, Danny and Phil, we are looking at exclusions in counter-attack situations, that is, in transition. Take it away, boys.
All you, Danny.
Okay. Oh, and there's a video. Let's see what happens.
Go, Mr. Magic, with our video first up.
Our technical guru.
Counter-attack situations. Counter-attack situations. Transition.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Yes, Danny.
Okay. Alrighty. So what we're seeing is in the back court here. So it's in transition. So we've gone from attack and defence, and right there, where the cursor is circling, the defending players come off his line. Oh, there you go. Very obvious, that one. And he's impeded the attacking player right under the nose of the referee. So I think that's a very easy one to call an exclusion on. You can see how he actually pushes the attacker away. So he actually impeded him, slowed him down. That's 100% exclusion every time.
Danny, it's very important to get those as it happens and not let it go for another second because it can escalate.
So what as Phil said, what happens then is if that's not called, the next movement I would have thought would be the attacking player would obviously try and do an elbow or a kick or something like that if it wasn't called up straight away. Because it was a pretty blatant punch, pretty blatant push off. So yeah, call it straight away. calm it down straight away. Thanks, Scotty. Okay. Can we speed it up, Scotty? Unfortunately, it's not. Scotty, can we show that one again, mate? Can we have it go in normal motion? Okay, so what happened at the top? The guy was shooting, and as he was shooting, the defender took off straight away, hoping that he would miss. And what it was, the shooter had both hands down in the water, holding or not holding, it doesn't matter. He had both hands in the water, and all the now attacking player just sort of shook around a little bit. The referee had no other choice but to exclude him because he had both hands down in the water. Unfortunately, we can't see it probably on the video.
We had a referees meeting yesterday where we spoke with the TWPC. One was in Holland and one was in New York, and we had 0 problems with the videos they played, and they played about 20 of them. So I don't know what's happened tonight.
Could be an.
Is there anything else left to watch? Okay.
It looks like our videos have gone down, Danny. So you just want to talk about calling the foul early.
Yep.
The backcourt referee, where he stands and where he's looking.
Yep. Look, in the good old days, they used to say that the referee should stay in line with the last player coming up the pool. Nowadays, we want to sort of stand in front of the last play, so our peripheral vision can still help our fellow referee, and we can still see what happens behind us. So if we stand too far back, we can't see what's going on in front of us. So we literally want to stand, a few metres in front of the last player, so we can watch both the attack and the defence coming through from behind. And a lot of times nowadays, what the referee does is if it, in transition, and we now have the attacking player. Okay, might be able to show us now. Sorry about that. Okay, that's exactly what I was saying. All right, the attacker had the shot. The defender took off into attack. The shooter had both hands down. They just do a little wobble. Referee has no other choice but to throw him out because holding or not holding, it looked like he was holding because he had both hands down. Yep, that's exclusion all the time. Thanks, Scotty. That was good. That was much better. Okay, that's just the one from the earlier when he impeded him. Same one again. We're just going through again. Hands down, exclusion. Yep, just keep that one going. Can we get that third one on, Scotty, by chance?
While we're waiting, Phil, why don't you tell us about our webinar we had for the referees over the weekend until you get a bit of vision. Now,
mute, Phil. Phil, you're on mute.
You're on mute. Unmute yourself.
We had Wynne Keeman, who's the secretary of the TWPC, and Mark Koganov, who's the vice chairman of TWPC. And they ran, for the first time ever, for FINA and for TWPC, a webinar on some of the rules. with all our National League referees, our National League delegates, and then each state was allowed to invite 3 other referees. Not all the states actually sent someone along, but it was very good. We did record it, and Australian Water Polo will be putting it on their YouTube station for everyone to watch. That'll be on by next week.
And I think, Phil, their videos and their diagrams were fantastic. They were really easy to watch and understand. So I think everyone should have a good look at it. Coaches as well, everyone involved in water polo should have a look at it, and it really explains the definition of different rules and situations in a game.
So when's that available, Phil? Oh, here we go. Let's get it while we can. Danny?
Okay. Okay, it's in the center of the cage there, about 6 meters out. You can watch the actual defender. He's doing backstroke. He actually stops, and as soon as he stops there, he impedes the attacking player who's still trying to swim forward. And then once again, to me, that's a real easy exclusion. Referees are watching it, seeing the defender stop. Once he stops and his legs drop down, all he can do is impede the attacking player. So that has to be an exclusion as well.
Yeah. Once again, Danny, you've got to call it straight away. You can't give an advantage, can you?
In that situation, there was no advantage whatsoever. It'll just have the other player remonstrate against each other. So once again, as you said earlier, Phil, we've got to call those ones straight away.
Yeah, and we've got to know where the ball is.
Yep.
So the ball wasn't in a position where it could go to someone to score. So, got to be called immediately. And then with the new rules coming into play, you just play on.
Yep. And the free is where the ball is. So it's easy for the guy to still to pass the ball. So it's not a problem. Nothing. No one loses out. The attack still goes forward.
Okay. I believe, gentlemen, and ladies, that was the last video of the evening.
It's unfortunate.
And we were supposed to have more, but...
Yeah, well, another one, that's okay. But what we're saying is virtually as, when you go from transition from, from defence into attack, any impeding, so even swimming across the legs, it's impeding. Coming off your line to slow down, actually, like even swimming backwards to impede the now attacking player. All these little things are now exclusions. And as we discussed just before, the earlier we call those, the better, because we let them go, they do escalate very quickly, and that's when the game really turns heavy. So the earlier we see those, an exclusion, the better for the game, and it makes it easier for the referees as well.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Magic, for those videos tonight, you get the yellow. See that? There it is. You get the yellow. You're allowed to come back, though. And especially for the introduction for our next guest. We'll forego our news and we'll include that with our next guest. She is the Australian women's captain. She's in lockdown in Melbourne, but still training there because we do still have Olympics going on next year, we hope, in Tokyo. And welcome to the whistleblower, Rowie Webster.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, and Lino, of course.
Fantastic. All right, well, look, I'll kick it off. How are you going in lockdown with the pandemic in Melbourne? We hear about it ad infinitum all day, all night. You're allowed to train, aren't you?
I am, yeah. There's a massive positive there. It allows me to spend most of my day training and then recovering for the next session. So I think you only have to ask Phil when I lived in his house that I don't often take days off. So yeah, we're really fortunate to be still training at MSAC and the VIS. Obviously, no contact and with the strict guidelines of the Victorian government. But it's a blessing. So no more 9-degree bay swims for me.
Ooh.
So, Rowie, when you go to the gym, is there any social interaction at all? Is someone on the other side of the gym?
Yeah, so our the VIS has really strict rules. So we have time slots. We get heat scanned coming in. Obviously, we're wearing a face mask on entry and on exit. All our gym staff members are in face masks, and we're in really small groups. So with our gym coach, it's only Maddie and I allowed in the gym, and we also have 3 other members in the gym the same time as us. So we're all social distancing. Everything has to be meticulously cleaned. You're in and out in your certain time. There's tracing. We have to fill out the COVID app every single day. So it's pretty specific, but it's very, very small things to do for the opportunity to train and continue to make ourselves better.
Rowie, were you joking about the 9-degree bay swim?
I actually, I went on Sunday for a little swim because some of my friends who aren't in as fortunate position as I am and allowed to be in the pool, they're out there training in the bay. So I thought I better bring myself back down to reality and just understand how fortunate I am to be in a temperature controlled pool. And so I went with some of those girls down at Mentone Beach on Sunday. So it was very, very fresh.
So, Rowie, going back to the gym, and this is I'd just like to know, when you're finished using the equipment, do you guys have to clean it themselves, or does someone come in and clean it, or you just how does it work?
That's a really good question. So every time you use a piece of equipment, you throw on a pair of gloves, you get the disinfectant spray and have to clean everything meticulously yourself. And then each night, a group comes through, cleans the gym, and it starts again. So we have like COVID squares on the floor. So to kind of make it a little bit easier not to interrupt your gym session too much, we put everything in that COVID square. And then at the end of the session, we make sure that we clean it all. And we do it ourselves. So, yeah.
Must drive you crazy.
It's challenging. And I just hate to think how many rubber gloves we're going through, to be honest. But I think, as I said before, we'd take that every day of the week, considering that the first 4 weeks of lockdown, when it was a nationwide lockdown, we didn't have access to the VIS. So the fact that the government is allowing us to stay open is, it's just huge. And for the athletes, like well-being and, you know, socialization and things like that, when you can't do much else in Melbourne at the moment, it's pretty nice to be there hanging out with some other athletes.
And so that's your gym sessions. What about your pool sessions? How are they being managed?
Yeah, so Lino, great question. Very, very similar through the VIS. So we're lucky enough to have a 4-lane 25-metre pool attached to the VIS. So that's where Maddie and myself do all our swim sets. So again, the same vigilant, strict protocol. And then at MSAC, they're staying open for high performance athletes. So your Mac Hortons, your Opals girls, the high performance water polo program. So because we're not under 18, Maddie and I aren't actually allowed to do contact as yet. And so we have to be social distance at all time in the pool. And again, we wear a face mask to the pool while we're getting ready to get in the water. And at the last minute, we take the face mask off. Deck changing, no showers, no bathrooms, things like that. So pretty strict again. They have contact tracing measures in place, and Spindles on the side of the pool is wearing a face mask. So it's definitely a new world that we're training in.
Absolutely, yeah.
So once again,
how hard? Sorry, Danny. Rowie, how hard to keep the motivation up? So there's only 2 water polo players training. I guess that none of the boys are down there. They've all got out of Melbourne earlier.
None of the boys are down here. I mean, for me personally, I've kind of always had it this way. I made my first 2 Olympics as a Victorian training in Victoria. We have an amazing support network, but it certainly relies on self-motivation and the ability to have a really, really good relationship with your coaches and the athletes around you. Because, you know, with Maddie and I, there are a lot of drills we can't do, and we try and implement the juniors. We try and shoot against boys goalies and things like that. So there's definitely its challenges, but I really, really like the flexibility of training and being able to kind of own my own training space and say, this is what I want to work with. Or if I come back from tour, you know, I can work on certain things. So yeah, Phil, there's definitely that downside of not having that big motivating squad around you on a daily basis, but there's definitely some pros of getting really specific training to what you need as well.
On the other side, it must be, you said Spindles is on the side in a mask. Must be very hard for him. He's just having a couple of people in the water trying to him stay motivated and get you guys going.
Yeah, 100%. I think that just shows the power of the community because, as you said, like it's hard enough coaching on the side of the pool with our caps, our water, things like that, let alone him having a mask and, you know, being quizzed like we are every single morning and the strict protocols. So it's certainly a challenge and we're all like slowly finding our feet with it. But again, it's just the power of this Victorian community. I mean, everyone just keeps giving more time, allowing you to do what you need. And I think I'm personally so grateful for Spindles' commitment. And you know, even the men's coach allows me to go to the boys' sessions, so I get extra training with them. The VIS moved a goal over to the VIS pool for me. We hung some caps so I can do some target practice. Like it's literally taking the whole water polo community to get 2 athletes to the start line for a camp.
Rowie, just going back to one of the answers before, you said about non-contact, yet you mentioned that the under 18s can. Is that what you said? How does that work? Can I ask?
Yeah,
I don't even know how it works.
I don't actually know the strict rules, but I know that at the moment for this stage that Victoria is in, if you're under 18, you're allowed to do contact. So all the juniors are doing wrestling and things like that. Yep. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a government rule. So I think it's like the schools being open. It's kind of something that's just progressed.
Special bubble.
Yeah, I can't hide my lines either. So I'm trying to look young, but they know.
Very good.
So let's take you back, Rowie. How did you get into water polo? First club, you know?
Yeah, so I got into water polo through my older siblings and they got into it through high school. So we always did surf life saving and nippers and swimming and things like that. But I actually wanted to go to the Olympics for basketball. So my 2 older sisters played through high school and I thought, I want to give this a go. So like in true younger siblings form, I followed my siblings to training and I was a little year 6 kid training. I remember Michael McNeil, who was a pretty big guy in Australian water polo. He was my first ever coach. Richmond Tigers was my first ever club. I missed out on my first ever Victorian state team, which if anyone from around the country knows that Victoria gets beaten a lot. So to miss out on that state team, it just proved that I was pretty shocking at the game to start with. But I fell in love with the game through school and through high school, and we had a really good core group around us and friendship and you know the contact and the merging of so many different sports that I loved came into one, and I kind of continued and to be a year 7 girl watching the Sydney 2000 girls win gold with 1 second to go. You know, what more motivation do you kind of need for the story to continue?
So, Rowie, can you give us an insight into who were some of the personalities that you played with and your favourite personalities who just didn't quite crack it to the elite level?
I mean, I think we've actually had a fairly good run of Victorians in state teams or national teams going forward, but the likes of a potential Sarah Harris who committed to coming over and defecting to play for Australia and played for Australia and not necessarily making it. And I think we had some really good Victorians at any given time who I looked up to as a junior and followed in their footsteps who never made it. So I think at the end of the day, it's almost just survival of the fittest, and it's who has the passion to continue above all things. And I think you know, I didn't make my first kind of rodeo at the Olympics. You know, VB, our goalie in London, didn't make her first. You know, Hannah Buckling, Zoe, none of them kind of made their first Olympics. So I think, you know, the likes of Sarah Mills could have definitely been there. Yeah, really, really interesting. Dan Bauer was our junior goalie. Some tough injuries. So I think you just have to kind of be in the right spot at the right time to get in. And I think once you're in, it's easier to stay in.
Is it harder being a Victorian to make an Australian team?
I think we do get a tough run in terms of, oh, you're from Victoria, but I think at the end of the day, it's up to the athlete. So I could sit here and say, you know, maybe it is tougher. We don't have the funding, we don't have the resources, we definitely don't have the elite competitions like the New South Wales and the Queenslands. But I think, you know, if my story is anything to go off and VB and things like that, then we, you know, and Lino and things like that, we can be successful if we're truly willing to chase our dreams to the fullest.
So
go on, Ian. You can ask the hard question.
So what happened to the Melbourne National League team over the very recent years? You were perennial finalists, and then it only took you a couple of seasons and you were gone. And, you know, that's a shocking thing in my view for Victorian water polo. Yeah,
look, I don't know, I guess, the politics behind it, but I think there was a changing of the guards, and you know, businessmen wanted to take it one way, and I think the water polo community wanted to take it the other way. So I absolutely agree with you there, Ian. I think it's a really devastating effect, you know, a ripple effect down for certainly the juniors that are rocking up every day to training currently with me. If you can't see it, you can't dream it, I think. And so the thought of being a 16-year-old kid and not being able to aspire to be in a National League program is devastating for the state. So in my opinion, the sooner we get some sort of team up and running is the better. And I've put my hand up and said I'm willing to try and help out. But, you know, I just can't see it happening certainly in the next 2 years, which is really disappointing because I think we're going to lose a lot of juniors who are very capable of going further in the sport based on there's nowhere to go.
Is that boys and girls?
I think so, yeah. We've got some great boys, some great young girls. You know, Phil's got some in his squad at the moment, some of the girls. So I think if we don't get our act together soon, unless you're really financially stable or you've got really financially stable parents to fly you interstate or move you interstate and live with someone, it's going to be a real challenge. And Danny, your daughter's one of those girls, you know, like I train with Carly, you know, 3 times a week, and it's devastating for me to come back and try and implement time and see them really want to be there and actively want to get better. And for what? To, you know, to make 1 or 2 seasons of under 17s and under 18s.
So Rowie, once our National League team did disappear from Melbourne, Victoria, and of course you still have to play at the highest level.
Yeah.
How did you feel knowing that you had to leave Melbourne and go somewhere else? But that's got to be hard.
Yeah, it was. I think just to play the sport you love, to uproot your life. You know, I was a newly homeowner. I was, you know, in a brilliant relationship. And I think to just leave family, leave friends, leave the community that you had based your whole career on, it was a challenge. And I think I always wanted to be the one Victorian that didn't have to move. Joe Fox had to move. VB had to move. You know, I really wanted to be a one state career player, and that opportunity got taken away. So, I mean, with every challenge comes really good positives too. So I was immersed in the NSWIS program. I was immersed in learning new players. To be honest, I didn't know who Amy Ridge was. And then I moved to Cronulla and I saw this young gun junior and I thought, you know, this girl has something, let's make a connection. And that connection has taken us in good stead, you know, the last 4 years. So look, there are definitely positives, but certainly, it's really tough, Danny. Yeah, it's challenging to have to move away just to play the sport you love.
So our Victorian brigade there, what are you going to do about it? You know, Lynn, what's going to happen to make things different?
Well, I'm not sure, but I think that certainly the group that you're currently training with, Ro, can see something ahead of them because you and Maddie are there. They have something to focus on, and hopefully that Victorian water polo will build from that, and we have a future.
Definitely.
Okay.
We can't go backwards. We've got to go forwards.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right, let's hope you do. Why don't we switch to refereeing? I've got a question, and watching you play, Rowie, you're not backward and coming forward about referees, so we'll spill your guts tonight, okay? But here's a question from an audience member. Obviously, you've got a wealth of experience as a player, but do you have any experience as a referee? Do you think more players should be picking up the whistle and learn more about that aspect of the game?
It was my second ever job I earned $5 a game on a Sunday down at Hawthorn Pool to referee about 10 hours of water polo games. So the problem is all the rules have changed since I ref, but I definitely think me of all people, I give the refs a hard time because you think, I've worked 14 sessions this week and you're going to pull me up for so-and-so. That's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, we don't have a game without them. So I can be pretty heated in the moment. I like to call it passion, but I certainly think that outside of the water, the referees don't hate me. So but I think the game is evolving. So I do think for the education levels of players, it's probably a really important thing to have to learn the rules and put yourself on the side of the pool and just realize how freaking hard it is to referee a game and watch everything. And you forget that there's 12 athletes swimming around and only 2 referees on the side of the pool with their eyes. So it's a constant challenge for both of us, I think.
So Rowie, before a game, do you talk about the referees with your coaches? And what do you really think about them? Do you grin and bear them? Do you regard them as the enemy?
No, definitely not. I think, as I said, they're definitely part of the game, but every referee has, like every player, has tendencies, So if you've been around the game for a long time internationally, you know which referees are whistle happy, which referees are going to be super technical, which ones are going to let the game go and be quite heavy. So, there's definitely an element of playing to them. And I remember we used to speak about, try all your tricks in the first quarter and see what you get away with and then continue from there. So if you're getting pulled up for pull passes, then, you shouldn't be doing them in the second quarter because you should learn your lesson in the first. So definitely, like players, referees have tendencies, but do I think they're the enemy? No way, because we don't have a game without them. So I respect them, maybe a bit passionately, but I certainly respect them.
A lot of players and coaches would comment that national players get away with a lot more and the referees favour them. Is that because you're better at cheating than the normal player, or that the referees actually do favour you? They're frightened to call fouls on national players.
I definitely think that it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I actually think that a lot of the time, if you're a national player, sometimes defensively they're a bit harder on you, because you should know better. So I think it's a little bit of give and a little bit of take. But look, I think potentially they're used to reffing us at the elite level and they know what we can do and they know what we're capable of. So I mean, I guess that's up to the individual opinion, but I certainly don't feel like I get an easy run or anyone that I know on the national team gets an easy run from the referees. No, I personally don't think that that's the case.
And I discussed this. I'll bring you into it, Danny.
Yep.
I think because you're physically superior, you do more training, right? Sometimes you get penalised for being physically superior, because you actually can do stuff in the water. and the normal player can't do it. What do you think?
I would agree with that. Sometimes I think that, sometimes what you would think is a good leg drive or a good push, where an international player might not, get pushed too far, and then a not so talented player or hardworking player kind of gets pushed a lot. Then the referees go, "Hang on a minute, you did something." So I think it's reading the situation and in the moment.
What do you think about that?
Pretty much what I was going to ask. I was just going to ask you if it's frustrating when you get called up on things that you didn't do. Like sometimes as you said, you get away with a pull pass, fantastic. But sometimes you get called up for something that you didn't do, but the referees thought you did something. How frustrating is that?
Yeah, I think that's when the tension starts, because that goes back to the training. I specifically remember the second week of National League this year, and we had all been, as an N-Swiss group, we had all been training on this particular 1-2 move. And 6 of us came to Monday's training and said, "Did anyone get away with that?" And the whole consensus was no. And, so we kind of sat there with the national coaches and said, we don't know if it's the National League reffing, whether it's us, but it was an absolute failure. And we had been doing it in training for literally 2-3 weeks non-stop. And so I think that's where the frustration may potentially come in. We're working with the national coaches to get better, and it kind of falls through the cracks. But again, we're all human, and maybe that's our fault. Maybe we thought we could get away with it and it was not worth training on.
So in saying that, Rowie, would you have a problem then talking to the referees after a game and ask them why were we getting called up, or why we weren't getting called up?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a problem with that. I actually took Phil. I took Danielle actually to one of the games, and I said, am I? And I approached. I think it was you, Ian. And I approached him. I said, am I actually allowed to approach the referees, because there's that 30-minute cooling off period, and then the 30 minutes was going to be the boys' game, and so I was going to have to wait till after the boys' game, and if there was a dispute there. So I actually said, "Hey guys, I don't know if you mind, but can we have a quick discussion here of why that was called that way?" And it was pretty respectful, I thought, and we all learnt. So I think that's the real respectful way to do it, is post game, when the situation's a little less passionate, and we all learn and we all get better. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, you were not in a very heated state either. You were very sensible and measured about what you were saying, and you actually asked them whether they minded. You knew the rules and blah blah blah, and they answered you the best they could. I actually don't know if you got what you.
I didn't get the answer that I was. I mean, I don't think that they knew in the end. And in hindsight, they probably potentially made the wrong call. But again, it was not necessarily about the wrong call. It was about having the respect from an athlete's perspective and a referee's perspective, and getting on the same page and discussing it from there. So I think if referees are open to that, and athletes are open to that, we can certainly improve everyone's role in Australian water polo.
So, Danny, you've had people approach you in a very aggressive way and a very respectful way. I'm sure you'd prefer the respectful way.
Oh, look, it's very hard, because it's you're up in a high, and you want to find out what's going on and what we did wrong and what we didn't do wrong. So I feel for players both ways, ones that are angry and ones that come up nice. So you just got to diffuse the whole situation. I think the worst thing is to not talk to them, because it just makes them more angry. So you just try and diffuse it, just calm down, and you go through the motion and try to explain what you've seen, and why we blew the whistle the way we blew it. So there's no use getting back in their face or getting up about it. It's part of the game, and I think if we talk things through, the players learn and the referees learn as well.
Now, Rowie, when your coach in whatever team is very aggressive and loud and talks to the referees in a possibly disrespectful way, does that have an effect on you, the player?
I mean, me personally, no. I grew up under the dumper era, so That was
Nothing offensive.
I don't know. I kind of like that passion a little bit. But I to be honest, I don't really take much. Like it doesn't really bother me. It's kind of white noise in the end. And I think if you're focused into your team and what you guys are doing, then so be it. And I don't mind a little bit of. I think a really effective coaching trait is to say nothing and then all of a sudden in a really critical situation just go up screaming, arms up, and then I think the referees just human nature think, oh shit, they've been quiet all game, I must have missed something, and then just human error kind of takes in and you'll very, very, very quite often get the next call in your favour based on them thinking they've missed something. So to answer your question, a coach yelling at a referee doesn't really bother me. As long as the referee doesn't start to take it out on the players in the water and make the calls unfair, then let them do their thing.
So Rowie, during a game and a call goes against you or goes against your team, and you look at the ref and with those daggers in your eyes that you do so well, do you think that helps, or do you think the referee might think, oh, maybe I got that wrong, or we are just trying to influence the referee a little bit?
Yeah, I think there's an element of influence. I also think if you use that technique over and over again, it just becomes your trait. So the referees know that you're going to do it. So I think there's an effective time to do it. It's also like the effective time to pretend you got headbutted, as a centre back with a centre forward. If you do it every time, then you're never going to get the call, in a critical moment. But I think, again, we're all human. And so some emotion does come into play. But I think, personally, I'm trying to get better at of not worrying about the ref as much. I certainly was very hot-headed in my younger years, and I still, in elements of the game, are super passionate towards the refs. But I also think the call's done, get over it, Rowie, and move on and go get the ball back. Like, it's that simple.
So does being captain make a difference?
To the referees?
To your response to the referees?
I think I have to set a better example. Yeah, I think I think the girls look up to me as a leader, and if they see me doing things, certainly internationally, I would never run my mouth or anything. I don't think I've ever been ejected for anything like that, disrespect or anything like that. So I mean, I prioritize that as being a really good mentor for the girls, and also you're wearing Australian colours, so certainly internationally I would be very, very disappointed in myself, but also I think again we need to be respected as a nation, and I think that goes a long way.
So Rowie, the new rules, your opinion of them, and also when you're together, does the national team focus on them?
I think every time the new rules come in, we certainly discuss them and discuss our interpretation. And I know Danny came round to all the National League clubs, I think 2 years ago when they came in, because there was a little bit of confusion, and that was really great. That was like open forum. Hey, what does this actually mean? What does it look like? Okay, if I do this, can I do this? So I think educating people on the new rules is really important. I think the new rules are exceptional. I love the fact that it's picking up the pace of the game, and it does allow a little bit of implementation of athlete creativity with the ball, which I think was lacking because you always had to pass off the ball to get it back to then play it. So I think that's really cool, and to see the men and the women being really creative with how they use that, I think it's good. The penalty rule, I think, is up for discussion, and you guys discussed it pretty well on your podcast last week with Adam. I think it should stand as a rule, but I certainly think it can be critiqued to be better. But again, at the end of the day, each international tournament or National League tournament kind of gets refereed as a theme. And so I know World Champs for us was really quite heavy and not so technical, and that was just the theme throughout it. So you get used to whatever they throw at you, and but I think the new rules are really cool to speed up the game.
So, Rowie, Leon, going with the penalties you just mentioned there, have you found yourself in a situation when you're in front of goals, defender on you, playing for the penalty, like holding the ball and waiting for the defender to grab you, or do you actually 100% want to score the goal?
Yeah, I think I grew up, Danny, in an era where that didn't exist. Mm-hmm. So I definitely wanted to score the goal. I think there should be the opportunity to bring the ball back for a penalty if the athlete doesn't score the goal. I mean, I would tell every athlete to go for the goal. And I think a lot of the European centre forwards go for the goal and they miss a lot of the shots that you kind of go, oh, that could have been a penalty. We watch a lot of that when we're doing scouting, and you see them turn inside and you see them throw it maybe over the cage or at the goalie, and you kind of go, oh man, that could have been a penalty. But I think that's kind of the Russian roulette that we play, and I would like to see that still going. And I don't think I've ever once hoped that my shoulder gets ripped back for a penalty. I think I'd always love to score the goal in the moment.
Ro, do you see a specific difference between the overseas refs and the refs that we have here? And how does that affect your game?
Yeah, there's certainly, as you know, Danny would know, that certainly the referees overseas, they have a style. It's a really fast-paced game. And you almost know internationally when you've done something wrong. You know, a lot of the times we're drowning someone and swimming to the box before the referees even kicked us out, because you just know. Whereas I feel like in National League, some players don't actually know. So that's where it kind of gets a little bit messy. But I think we've got great referees in our country. You know, your Connors and your things like that, they're all willing to learn. And it's kind of nice to see that there's a changing of the guards in terms of some young blood. I guess we just need to send them abroad and get them more experience, because I think on the big stage, Lino, as you well know, things are just more aggressive and the crowd gets involved, and so you've got so many more things to kind of distract you. Whereas in a National League game, you'd be lucky to have your parents at the game.
And so, do you have a favourite international referee and a favourite Australian referee?
Oh, the one sitting in front of me is not bad. I do have a favourite international ref. I really like, I think her name is Marie Claire, someone from Canada. I think she's incredible. I think she's the most neutral, consistent referee I've ever seen. So she would be probably my favourite ref internationally. Yeah.
Rowie, I coached against her in my era. She knows every dirty trick in the book.
There you go.
Queen of, and Lynn, you played against her. So
I was in the goal.
I tell you what, if she could have kicked you, she would have.
She probably
did. I suppose knowing every dirty trick is a good thing.
For a referee.
Correct.
For a referee.
Yeah, I just think she just doesn't care, you know, what your name is, how many goals you scored, how many blocks you blocked. I think she just plays in the moment. And yeah, she has an aura about it. I think she's quite good.
Lynn didn't want to know about it because she was a good goal scorer.
Rowie, can we get away from referees for a little while?
Absolutely, I'd love to, Phil.
Good. And a question you weren't given any notice about, but follows on from our talk with Victorian last week. And we spoke about how great the college coaches were, the college system in America.
Yeah.
You had a year over in Arizona, and a lot of kids from Australia want to go to college in America. You want to just tell us about that year and the difference of what happens in America to what happens here?
Yeah, Phil, I think if any athlete is thinking about going overseas and playing, certainly in the college system, I would 100% say do it. I think the lifestyle that you lead is really elite. So basically, they merge the two most important things, education and sport, together collectively, so you can get your degree and also play some really good water polo. And all the superstars in the US at the time are playing in that competition. And so I think it's just so well structured. you get to travel on weekends, you get to play so many different teams, so many different styles, with so many foreigners from around the world, you know, topping up teams left, right and centre. I think, I just think it's an absolutely phenomenal opportunity, and anyone that has the ability to take that opportunity, I would say go for it. And of course you're going to be away from home, things are going to be a little bit different, but it's English speaking. The system is set up for success. So I think it's the best model in the world, Phil.
I walked into the Arizona gym and was just blown away by it. Can you explain what it was like?
Yeah, so at the time, I think they've actually upgraded, which just seems bizarre because at the time it got rated the 3rd best gym in America. There were 110 squat racks or something like that. So just unbelievable. The facilities, the funding that goes into these programs to be successful is just extravagant. And also the thing that I love about the US college system is they have that equilibrium rule. So whatever they put into men's sport, they put straight back into women's sport. So generally for a sport such as water polo, if you go to a college with a football team or something like that, your program is going to be significantly better funded than most. So yeah, as you said, the gym, the pools, just incredible facilities, and world-class coaches and physios and things like that.
Alrighty. Phil, anything else in that regard in the college system?
No, I don't think in the college. I know Rowie actually wanted to go to Hawaii for 1 year and they wouldn't let you. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't get released, so they were probably scared that I'd just surf all day.
So, Rowie, the other week we had Adam Victorian on, and one of the questions we asked him was, you know, who are the best female players that he's seen, and so on and so forth. And of course, one of the questions I asked him was, you know, what players do you love to hate? And your name come up as one of the players he loves to hate. Is that a great compliment for you coming from the American coach? You know, like gold medalist, world champs, Olympics, everything, and you're one of the players he loves to hate because you.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the biggest compliments you can get. I mean, I was an athlete at Arizona State when Adam was the UCLA coach, and then he took on the national coaching role, and you know, I made the national team, and I think so. We've always had this kind of battle, but I guess he's always been very, very supportive of me. But I think there's definitely an element that I get under his skin. I just seem to love scoring goals against the US team, and but I think it's, even though it sounds like a disrespectful comment, I think it's actually a really respectful comment, and I would say the same about him. You know, I think it's what drives us to be better, is to try and beat the best coach in the world at his own game. So it's
Absolutely.
mutual.
Now, Rowie, Adam Kokorian also made a comment that he wouldn't be surprised if some of his players were, I didn't think he'd think a lot of them, but a few of them, he wouldn't be surprised if they pulled out of Tokyo. What's your feeling about our team?
I think we're all going ahead with it. I think we've come so far collectively as a group, and one thing about this national team is we're just so resilient. Like we've had a changing of the guards of coaching mid-cycle. That hasn't phased us. We're still, you know, semi-successful. I think we've had to deal with injury and things like that. So I wouldn't put anyone's name up to say that one extra year is too much for this group. I just think that we're far too goal-oriented and courageous to back out. And I mean, I'd be surprised. I was shocked by that comment, to be honest, with the US girls. I'd be very surprised to see any of those girls back out now when they're potentially going to be triple Olympians and triple medalists.
So, Rowie, how do you keep yourself motivated now? And I'll ask you the same question I asked Adam. Let's say the Olympics don't go ahead, and obviously you've heard all the talk and everything else about it. So how do you keep yourself motivated knowing that might happen?
Yeah, I think that's an absolute possibility. Like that's actually quite realistic that it might not. But I think one thing that as an athlete and probably as an elite coach and referee, I think you'd never stop hating yourself if you weren't ready that it did go ahead. So I think the opportunity and the drive and the dream that you've had for so long, you want to be bloody prepared. And I think, and that's what drives you on a daily basis, for that hope that if it does come, I'm ready at the start line and I've done absolutely everything I can to get there. And I think that's the same with whether you come away unsuccessful in an Olympics. I think if you know you've done everything you can to get there, then it doesn't hurt as much in the long run. But I think we'd be kicking ourselves to say that we haven't thought about it as athletes. Yeah. But you have to prepare like you're going. You have to prepare like you're on track to win a gold medal.
Okay. And then, Ro, whether the Olympics go ahead or not, 2022 World Champs, how does that sound to you?
Yeah, well, I actually made the comment the other day to Spindles. I was chatting to him after a session. I said, hey, Spindles, if I make the Olympics in 2021, it's only 3 years to the next one. And he said, I was waiting for this conversation. You're retired a very long time. So he was all for it. I also had that exact same conversation about 10 minutes later to my gym coach, and he said, let's just get you to the first one. Let's not make you back do anything more. So, I mean, Lino, anything's possible. I think a really, really memorable conversation I had with Jo Fox post Rio Olympics, when I was obviously pretty disappointed in the result that we came home with. She rang me and actually said, you know, whatever you're thinking, let me just plant the seed of you're retired a very, very long time. And so that kind of motivated me to say, I'm gonna take this journey as far as I can and for as long as I can. And until I dislike the game or my body shuts down, I think I'll want to play the game for as long as I can. So I always say to myself, if I can enjoy 5 out of the 6 training days each week, I'm still in good stead to be a good national player.
How does 2022 sound to you, Lynn?
Sorry?
How does 2022 sound to you?
A long way away. So, Ro, whilst this last 6 months has been really difficult, being nice, has it been good to your body and nice to be at home? Has there been some upside to all of this COVID stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think the positives are what we're clutching on, like just spending time with family, being home around my posse, my crew. I think that's just incredible. And I don't think I've been, I haven't had an Australian winter in 15 years. So just the fact that I'm experiencing the Melbourne winter with every other idiot here is a new and exciting thing. But certainly, Lino, to be home here, and have family time is pretty incredible this close to a potential Olympics. So I think take that with all the positive vibes that I can.
So
let's
Rowie,
hope this break helps you.
Yeah, thank you.
Rowie, first of all, I'm shocked that you only train 6 days a week now.
Yeah, well, my day off was an ocean swim, so...
Okay. Right. The Australian squad, we've had extra players put into it. So you're now, I think you've gone from 15 to 20, and 3 players that have sort of been out of it for a couple of years. You happy with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not my role or responsibility to pick those players, but I'll support any players that do come into the team. And I guess it's my responsibility as a captain of this squad to get them on board as fast as I can. I think it was definitely the right decision to add players to the group purely on injury, training games, things like that. Like we just can't play with the amount of players that we had cut down to. So I certainly think it was a positive move. Players like Tennille, the benefit, whether she makes it or not, the benefit to her for the Paris cycle will just be incredible. So I think it's pretty positive. yeah, so I'll support any decision in that regard.
I think it's a huge plus for Paris, and if I was you, I'd be seriously thinking about staying on, because some of these young players coming up, especially at the centre forward position, where Australia has been battling for quite a while.
Yeah.
The young ones coming up, it's going to, with Tilly Kearns, with Daniil, with Naoka, with Sienna Green, and others. It's centre forward, which has been a problem for you, is going to be a strength.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it brings new blood. It brings, it makes us feel young to some extent. So I think I'm backing your comments. I think it's really exciting, really beneficial for these girls, and certainly forward thinking towards the Paris Olympics. So I back it 100%.
So I'll keep going. We'll go back a little bit in time, Rowie. Your first Victorian team, your first junior team, and your best junior experience, and your biggest Australian senior experience.
My first state team was under 14 Victorian team. I think I was 12. So we did the East Coast Challenge in Sydney. It was my first trip away with the water polo girls. Ali Grono was my roommate. We got up to mischief. You can imagine those stories have lasted us a lifetime of giggles. You were my first junior coach, Phil. We were the Crocs. So that was pretty incredible. And that group that we had, that you were our head coach, we had, I think, 5 or 6 athletes continue to my first Olympic team. So an incredible group of women and athletes who stayed together collectively. So we went on to win the Junior World Championships a few years post that. And then surely winning a bronze medal at my first Olympic Games with Leno there, that was pretty incredible. But there's so many great memories of the senior tours, and some of my best memories are the worst at the time, and they just seem to live on forever. But I think coming home with a medal after London was probably my best senior member, and being named captain of this great team.
What was Lynn like as a manager? Can
I
rephrase it? What was Lynn like as a manager before you won the bronze, and then after you won the bronze?
I think we were all drunk after, so that's pretty easy to answer.
Well, we were all very wet.
But certainly I think the best managers are the ones that you just don't know what's going on in the background, and they never make you feel like there's more to do than just play. And I think Leno was, I had grown up with Leno. Leno taught me how to do egg beater. After I made my senior national team, she looked at me in the pool and said, "Rowie, what are you doing with your legs?" And I said, "I don't know, but it's getting me somewhere." So Leno would take me away to the side of the pool and make me do egg beater. So, I mean, she was like a tour mum for all of us, but certainly I think just being so organised and so caring, having a water polo knowledge, it's just brilliant. And to be Victorian, I think we're few and far between. So very, very special to share those memories with Leno, myself, and VB collectively as the 3 Victorians.
And an excellent goalkeeper as well.
The best.
Leanne Barnes is on the line, another Victorian. Got a comment about Marie Claire.
There you go.
Nasty player, but lovely.
The lovely lady.
Lovely lady.
Now, Rowie, my daughter Carly's been at me for all week to ask a very important question about your new addition, Nugget.
Yep.
How is that going? Explain who Nugget is.
Yeah, I better explain. Nugget is my new puppy as of Thursday. So he's extremely cute. He's got a very loud voice box when he wants to have some love from us. But he's a good little dude. So he's a whippet, 9 weeks old, peeing everywhere, pooing everywhere, the usual. Loves a cuddle, and I think he's going to be very, very fast. So yeah, I need to train him. The recall, I need to train on him.
Now, this is an indication we're running out of time because we are. Let's go down to our opinion. You've answered a couple of these. Who's the best player you've ever seen?
The best player I've ever
Female.
seen.
Female.
Female, yeah. I think there's two actually. I would have to say Ifka from the Netherlands. Just absolutely technically beautiful. Her versatility around the pool incredible. So Ifka from the Netherlands, and also I reckon someone that was just incredibly talented with her body shape was Brenda Villa. So. You know, like we talk about these long athletic bodies, when push came to shove and the US needed a goal or a critical pass, she was the one that came up for the goods. So I think really important for those athletes out there that aren't necessarily, gifted with height or strength. I think you can still be very capable of making it. So yeah, Ifka and Brenda.
Do you watch a lot of men's polo? Who's the best?
I do, yeah.
Who's the best?
Filipovic is my favourite for sure. So Philip is just incredible. So I like to think that I test, or I employ some of the skills from the boys' game into the girls' game. Certainly, I think we can learn a lot from them, and they can learn a lot from us.
Who's your best teammate away from the pool? And that's not current. That's forever.
Yeah, forever. Gosh, that's tough. I don't think I could put it down to one. I mean, VB and I have an incredible connection, just seeing what each other went through. You know, VB's broken leg, breakdowns of boyfriends and girlfriends and things like that, just the slog that we saw each other go through and the commitment. So that's probably a unique one. You know, your Ziggies, your Kelseys, yeah, there's so many, your Izzos, your Hannahs, like it's forever going to be named. And then the new girls of, you know, your Bronte and your Amy's and stuff like that. So I think there's special connections everywhere. Ekripon, yeah, all those. Okay,
now Phil's expecting a certain answer here. What's the best pool in Australia?
Oh, Dawny for sure.
You got it.
No, that was a disaster. I cannot train there. I'm ridiculous. I'm scared of everything. The girls throw jellyfish at me. I spent half the session on Nyoka's back. I'm petrified of friggin' everything that touches me in that pool. So I like pools with walls, windows, doors, all that.
And a black line.
I've got a question, Ian. Who are you playing National League for next year, Rowie?
Oh, well, hopefully Balmain.
and Dorney's open again.
There you go. Maybe not Balmain then.
Haven't you got it? Isn't it organised yet, Phil?
Not yet.
You'd have to ask Rowie and their coach.
We'll never tell. We don't give away our secrets.
Oh, okay.
So,
What about
Rowie, back to the pools. What's your favourite international pool to play in?
Oh, good question. I love Stanford University pool. Stunning. And I would have to say also Margaret Arena, just the home of water polo in Budapest. I think that's, you know, when the sun's shining and there's the crowd jumping up and down and they're blowing their horns and they're painted and things like that, pretty cool. And then in Australia, I mean, you can't go past MSAC or Bicton.
Yeah.
Can you see yourself coaching ever?
I actually have been approached by 2 US colleges to be their like junior assistant coach. So it's something that I would look into for sure. I think that athletes have a lot to give back to the game, and certainly water polo was my first love. So coaching would be pretty cool. But there's a lot of coaching courses you have to do, so we'll see.
No worry. What about playing National League after you finish with international polo?
Yeah, it's something that I haven't considered, to be honest. I know myself, and I want to kind of leave the sport at the highest level, I think. So I think potentially I'll come back to National League eventually to help build the club. But certainly I think once I finish internationally, that'll be my National League career done as well. And I'll move on to something else.
Get a real job.
I mean, let's not go that far.
How about coaching in Melbourne, Rowie, if something come up?
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, I just spoke to Spindles the other day. I said, what do we need to do to get this National League club up and running? How do I give back to this core group of girls? And now that I've been training with them, I have almost a heartfelt obligation to see them get to where they want to go, if that's what they want to do. So I would certainly look at doing something in the water polo space in Victoria and getting it up and running. So it's definitely on the bucket list and a huge priority for me moving forward, even post just this next little bit of Olympics in the downtime. So definitely. So if you have any doors that are open, Danny, let's do it.
Doors.
We'll make something up, Rowie, don't worry.
Yeah, there you
Very
go.
well made. Rowie, it's been an absolute delight having you on the show. We have run out of time. You've taken us way over time, which is a good sign.
Sorry, fellas.
And we do appreciate your time. And we wish you all the best luck for whatever's coming up, specifically the Olympics. That'll be
Yeah, thank you so much. And keep doing what you're doing. It's great to have a water polo segment.
Thanks again. Fantastic. All right, our brilliant panel tonight. You've been exemplary, all of you. Good rookie performance there, Lynn. Well done.
Okay. Thanks, Minnie.
You were good. We had a nice Victorian flavour tonight. It was good. Phil, Lynn, Daniel, and of course Rowie, thank you very much. And our next program, The Whistleblower, will return for episode number 8 on August the 10th, of course. It's in a fortnight's time on Monday. And our special guest will be Daniel Marsden. There he is. And anybody who knows Daniel will know that he's got plenty to say about water polo. Most of it good, I would hope. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. And don't forget The Whistleblower on August the 10th, our next program. Take care, everybody, in these difficult times. See you then.